So consciousness, whatever it is, let's assume we know what we're talking about. Somehow involves these rhythmic pulses of collapsing of possibilities into actuality, which leave traces as memory and so on and so on. Okay, so to be conscious, in some sense, is the same thing as for there to be time, right?
Say that again?
To be conscious, it sounds like to be conscious is in some sense the same thing as for there to be time.
For there to be, yes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about consciousness as sort of precipitating out of the timeless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's related to the collapse, somehow related to the collapse of the wave function.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the collapse happen within time?
Yes. Okay. Good question. Good question. So, because our consciousness exists in time, in, these precipitated moments, right? This is the conscious moment when it's precipitated, right? And this is what we're viewing, this emergence of time out of timelessness with. From within time, we're viewing the emergence out of timelessness. So we're putting temporal terms on it. Because we exist in time, and that's how we talk, and that's how we understand processes, that's how we're going to view things emerging out of timelessness as being in a temporal process. And so I would say that's a limitation of our language and of our consciousness, that we can't fully describe what that means, the relation of something to emerge out of timelessness, because the emerging is a temporal word. It happens in time.
As collapses.
Yeah, exactly. All of those verbs that we're using in there are things that happen in time. And so, and I guess maybe another approach would be to say that the process itself is timeless, and it's only the beginning and the end of the process that separate it out from other moments in time, maybe. So yeah, you could go, should I go another different way with that, or do either of those appeal to you, or am I not getting the question?
No,
okay.
They appeal to me. I mean, this is where we get to the sort of the boundary issue in terms of the philosophy of time, the difficulty of speaking about it, which has been recognized as far back as Augustine, who talked about the paradoxical quality of time and speaking about time. And it seems that you are doing something here that is helping the mind navigate this complex terrain, which, when we speak about it, well, whenever we reach the edges of this terrain, we come to paradox, right? And two of the main terms of the paradox that you are dealing with are subjective and objective, time and timeless, and so on. So it seems like the main model or insight that you're working with to navigate that complex terrain is our fractals.
So I guess you could say, the timeless as being, the black part of the Mandelbrot set. We're always approaching the edge. This is what I'm hearing and what you're saying, and then maybe relating it to the question, so that we can describe temporal processes. We can't describe, the black thing, because there's no algorithm to generate that section. And so we can describe how temporal processes butt up against it. And so when we say time emerges from timelessness, yes, that's part of time. That emerging is part of time, and not necessarily. I mean, it's part of both. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. But we could draw our line that timelessness is this black, undefinable thing, and then time emerges out of it. And the emerging is part of the time, not necessarily part of the timelessness, if that makes sense. think we have to wait
Oh.
until the committee members are finished.
I wonder if Don has a final question. You might have to demute him.
Oh. Sorry, Don, I muted your phone conversation.
In fact, this concerns, this is a follow-up on this discussion. I don't know who asked the question, but in any case, the emergence of time that you're speaking of here seems to be an emergence of a personal time. It's a subjective time. And you describe it as resulting from one's own personal collapse of wave function, of quantum state. But of course that quantum state, as far as we are able to describe it, is determined by the rest of the universe.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we can imagine, in fact, that different individuals are encountering different experiences of time, their own subjective time, and yet I have to believe that there is another notion of time out there which we do need to use to formulate our quantum rules and to actually evolve our wave functions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would ask you to distinguish perhaps between our subjective time, which is related to our own state of consciousness, and an objective time that we need to be able to give a mathematical description to this wave function in the first place.
Right. And so I would say that the objective time has been built out of our experience of trying to interface subjective times. And so because all of us have very different subjective times, in the evolution of consciousness, we developed a need to be able to coordinate these subjective times with one another, and that's how we developed our notion of objective time as it's measured by a clock. But you're talking about something different, I think.
I'm actually thinking that there is something objective in nature of the time that we use in our physical descriptions, and which we also use to produce our quantum mechanical descriptions, if that's what it is, which is the description of what's occurring within our own brains. So I'm a realist in this respect, I think.
Right. No,
I don't believe it's a fiction.
You what?
I don't believe that this objective time is a fiction.
Right? No, I don't think so either. I think our subjective time is a manifestation of objective time. And the objective time, being built by the quantum collapses. And that because we participate in those quantum collapses in a special way, however our brains do it that make us conscious, that because I don't know, and I get, are you saying that there's a universal time?
No, certainly not in the traditional sense of that word.
Okay.
Because in fact, we know from the context of classical general relativity, who knows what's going to happen in quantum, that the best we can do is to find a local time.
Yeah.
And we apparently can't even do that in our initial attempts at trying to produce a quantum theory of gravity. So no, when you use that term universal, I think I disagree in its use.
Right. So are you trying? So in what sense? So you're talking about a physical time, but you want that physical time to be linear?
No, not necessarily. It could in fact be Natal's fractal time. It's just that we have to recognize that
it's not all
a
subjective.
local in nature. That's not a spatially
and I guess
global notion of time.
Right. Okay. That it's local. Yeah. Absolutely. Was there?
If I believe all this stuff.
Right.
Great. Let's take Dawn. Sean? Let's take Dawn with us.
Can we take Don with us?
You can take on with you, but I think